Last Friday, an employee from my company died. His name was Amaura. Of course, I wasn't there when his body was found. I heard from someone close to him that when his body was found in his apartment, he had 2 ballpoint pens jammed unimaginably deep into his ears. The police conducted an investigation and quickly deemed his death a suicide. Everyone at work spoke of the strange way that he died. Everyone was so shocked. I wasn't. I knew it was a suicide. There was an autopsy. I felt sorry for him when I thought of him lying on the slab of all the doctors gathered around him. Soon after, there was a wake for Amaura. Our boss was there. Everyone was there except me, it seemed. I don't think I could have been able to put up with the horrible silence. I hate silence. By the end of this story, you'll know why. Although he was senior to me at work, we were friends. 3 weeks before the fateful day of his death, he stopped by my apartment. We drank a bunch of beers and spoke about other employees at work. Badmouthed them. You know, that sort of thing. We were deep in conversation and enjoying it. So we didn't turn on the TV or put on any music. We drank all the beer I had. I thought it would have been alright to keep chatting without the alcohol, but Amaura wanted to keep drinking. So I reluctantly went to the shops with him. As soon as we went into the local supermarket, he said, with a playful grin on his face,
"Oi, who's this?"
I looked in the direction he was pointing. There was a woman with messy hair down to the small of her back. A shopping basket idly dangled in her left hand. I had seen her before. This was nothing new. The woman was laughing. "Oh, her. That's the laughing woman," I replied. "Let me explain. The laughing woman is pretty famous in my area. From a distance, she looks like a normal young woman, but up close. The unusual thing about her, as her name suggests, is that she's always laughing. It was very awkward in the supermarket with her laughing loudly to herself, and I noticed that drool was spilling out of the corner of her mouth. She would double over sometimes and throw her head back while she laughed. That's how she got her name, of course. Even the cashiers knew her as the laughing woman. She didn't care who saw her, I guess. Or she didn't care about what kind of nuisance she was being. Maybe she didn't even realize. Some people pretended not to notice her or chose to ignore her. I noticed that Amaura was a bit drunk, so I said, "Let's go, man, let's get out of here."
"Hang on, I want to have a little fun with her,"
he replied, as he walked closer to the laughing woman. I must have been pretty drunk as well, because I can't remember making too many efforts to stop Amaura.
Oi, what's so funny, you?"
he asked. The laughing woman just laughed.
"Oi, answer me. The world is so miserable. Give me a laugh, will ya?"
he said. I could blame it on the booze, I guess, but we were both talking about her, loudly, expressing our opinions on her, if you catch my drift. Other shoppers in the supermarket started to look towards us at the commotion we were creating. And of course, the laughing woman just laughed. She never answered or responded to anything we said. When Amaura realized he wasn't going to get an answer from her, besides shrill laughter, he said,
"What the is wrong with her? Oi, this is boring, let's go."
Amaura went to get his beers. I was tired of drinking beer, so I went for something else. At that point, I heard Amaura scream from the next aisle over. I rushed over and saw that Amaura and the laughing woman were now eye to eye, in front of one another. She was laughing so loudly, she was covering him with spit. Amaura was pushing the laughing woman. She staggered backwards and slowly fell on her backside, all the while still laughing. Shoppers and employees began to gather around. I felt so awkward and embarrassed. We paid for our drinks and got the hell out of there. I thought of going over and apologizing to the laughing woman, but as I wasn't really involved in the conflict, I didn't know how it would go down, and I thought my apology might seem not genuine. It's all excuses now, though. When I asked Amaura what had happened, he said,
Oh, when I was picking out the beers, I heard her laughing right in my ear. It was horrible, man. I turned around and she was right in my face. I was so freaked out, just pushed her.
Then he said,
When you see her up close,
It sounded like he wanted to go on, but he just couldn't. We got back to my room and started drinking again. The mood had changed. It was awkward now. We sat in silence for long periods of time. He shifted restlessly in his chair and kept looking around the room until he finally said,
Hey, let's play a game or something.
After a while, he started to get into the game. It was one of our favorites, and before long, he was back to his usual self. We'd completely forgotten about the supermarket incident by this point. It was late, and Amaura went on his way home. But the next day at work, he was acting strangely. Firstly, I noticed he was constantly listening to his iPod. That's not that strange in itself, but he would only remove his headphones if somebody made eye contact with him and spoke to him. And when he took the headphones out, I could hear that he was listening to his music at a really loud volume. I thought it was a little weird, but I didn't say anything. Even when we had lunch, he didn't take his headphones out. Only when he absolutely had to. He started to annoy his co-workers, and they shouted at him. He was told not to listen to any music at work anymore. And that's when he started talking to himself. He would shout, "Shut up!" and randomly scream at work. In all honesty, he was creeping everybody out at work. I decided to speak to him outside of work about it. He said he would only talk to me somewhere noisy. I didn't ask, I just went with it. So I chose a popular family restaurant. It was lively when we arrived. I asked him what was wrong and if he was aware that he was acting differently. He was aware. I cannot remember exactly what he said, but it was something like this. After the incident in the supermarket, he said he could hear that woman's laugh everywhere. At first, it was distant and not constant. He thought he was just hearing things. Then he could hear her laughter coming from behind him, and it was drawing closer and closer and closer. Before long, her laughter was booming in his ears. You cannot hear her if you have music on or you're somewhere noisy, he said. But if there's a sudden patch of silence, you can hear her laughter coming back very quickly.
I can hear it now, even though it's noisy in here,
he said.
It's hardest at night. I sleep with the light on. When I try to sleep, I hear her laughter echoing in the rooms in my house.
He was open and frank with me about his situation. He was speaking with clarity and composure until he suddenly stood up and shouted repeatedly,
It's her! It's her! It's her!
He sounded like he was on the verge of tears. It took me a while to calm him down. He eventually said,
She cursed me, you know.
And then something like,
She was a ghost, right?
I thought above all else, Amaura was obsessed with these strange delusions. I knew that the laughing woman is just a very strange woman, not a ghost. As if to prove this, the next day I went to the supermarket in search of her. She was there, laughing to herself. She's real, I know. Her laugh is so strange and unique. It is truly unforgettable. In Amaura's case, I think he had some feelings of guilt for mocking her, and that was the origin of his delusions. It's a bit dumb to think ghosts appear in supermarkets, right? Even if you tell him this, he just disagrees and rambles on about ghosts and curses. He was deeply deluded. I was getting annoyed at this point. I said something along the lines of, if you really think that way, then why don't we go and find her again? Go back to the supermarket, and I'll prove she's real. Of course, Amaura vehemently refused. But I forced him. I literally dragged him onto the train, and we headed to the supermarket that day after work. All the while, he was grumbling to himself and fidgeting. As soon as we got there, he didn't want to go in. I suggested that we should just peek in from the outside, baby steps. He tried to turn and run, but I held him back. I felt bad, but I knew this was for his own good. We looked through the window, scanned the supermarket, but we couldn't see her. This was the time of night that she was said to turn up in the supermarket, the sort of time of night that I always saw her. Because we didn't see her, Amaura started spouting his delusions again. I thought that if we just hung on a little bit longer, she would turn up. Suddenly, Amaura began to shake, and he threw his hands up and stuffed his fingers into his ears.
I can hear her. I can hear her.
He was babbling like a child on the verge of tears. His nose ran, and he drooled, and he said,
I know I'm cursed.
I didn't believe in the curse of the laughing woman, but I could hear her. I could hear that laughter now. Her head was cocked sideways, and she was staring in my direction. The laughing woman was stood behind Amaura. I grabbed his shoulders tightly. She was walking towards me. As she laughed, that insane laugh, spit flew from her mouth again. I didn't want Amaura to turn around and see her. I held him tight, so he couldn't look. She was standing directly behind him. She clicked her neck back upright, and she was staring at me in the eyes. I had never seen her up close before. Her mouth absently hung in an open smile. Her eyes stared through her messy, unkempt hair. That wasn't the creepiest thing about the laughing woman, though. Spit was bubbling all over her lips, and her mouth was entirely toothless. After a while, only a couple of minutes, I guess, but it felt like hours, she slowly walked away in the opposite direction of the supermarket, laughing all the while. Just before she went out of sight, she stared at me again. After that, I did something selfish. Amaura, still facing the other way, still trembling with fear. I made him get on the bus, and I went home by myself. At that point, I didn't care about Amaura's delusions anymore. I was just scared of what I'd just seen, and I wanted to go home and the away from whatever that was as soon as possible. Amaura didn't go to work the next day. In fact, he never returned. People spoke about him, saying how he was absent from work without reason. This went on, and eventually, last Friday, he was found dead in his home. I realized one thing. I'm sure Amaura knew it too. When you listen close enough, it sounds like she's speaking to you deep beneath her laugh. I know she is. I can hear her saying it now, again and again, while her laughter whirls around my rooms in my apartment. In every silent period of the day, her laughter getting closer and closer until it's booming in my ears. She keeps saying, I'm coming for you. I need to stop hearing this. I need to block her out. I know now, Amaura wasn't deluded.